I don't know about you folks, but I love hearing about investors buying their first deal. I thought we should bring about and talk about and review an investor and his first deal. Here you go. Hey everyone, I have a very exciting show for you today. A special guest. We have someone who has just recently secured their first rental property. So we're going to dig in, figure out what it is, where it's at, how we got comfortable, how we pulled the trigger. So let's welcome Brian Peterson to the show. How you doing, Brian?
Great. Doing well. Good to be
Yes.
here.
Thanks, man. Thank you again for doing this. Why don't you just introduce the audience to who is Brian, where you are in the country, what do you do for a day job, and maybe a little bit about, why real estate.
Sure. So I am based in San Diego, California. Got two kids under two, living the quarantine life. That's been a big adjustment.
Yeah.
I work in sales and in the in the tech industry, small tech company.
Yep.
And yeah, so about 18 months ago, I stumbled into this idea of financial independence and really caught a hold of me. We started to consume as much as we could of different books and information on that. And along that process, we obviously tightened up a lot of our finances. We started saving about 50% of our income.
Wow.
And the whole point of financial independence is you've got to put that money to work, and it's got to work for you, and hopefully work harder than you're working in your day job. So that's kind of where we're coming from. I had no real financial literacy background. So I started, in the kiddie pool, trying to learn what a high yield savings account is, moved up to index funds, started to learn about, hey, can I lend money that I've saved and make interest on that? And real estate was this thing I always knew existed, but that was the thing that intimidated me the most. And so as I was learning more, I thought, I should probably give this a try, and started that journey and found your book about, I don't know, probably 2.5, 3 months ago, which is right when I was ready to pull the trigger and just started to begin the escrow process of my first property.
Oh, very cool. So I'm curious, I'm always curious how people find the book, right? Because I'm just a self-published person. Did it just show up in your Amazon feed, or were you just scrolling through, or how does one find it? I have no idea.
Yeah. So for me, I was talking to my father-in-law about all this money stuff. And he said, oh, hey, I know a guy who's buying properties in Boise and Indiana and all these places. You want to talk to him? Some guy here in San Diego.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I met with this guy, had coffee with him, and he said, hey, you got to read this book one rental at a time.
Oh.
So that's how I found it.
Wow. The network is growing. So, okay, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, I got to send him a thank you card. That's pretty cool. All right. So you find the book, you probably devour it in a couple of days, right? It's not a long read. And what'd you think?
It was really eye-opening, and I think the biggest message that I took away, I felt like the book was kind of written for me, somebody who works a full-time job, and it's a pretty good income to where I can save some of that money and put it to work. So, and I didn't have, I wasn't looking for another full-time job.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking to become, I don't know, a flipper and start a new business in real estate. So it resonated with me, and I liked that the bar was set realistically. Like I didn't need to jump into like a 60 unit syndication, enter all the buzzwords, and it's just too overwhelming. So I liked that it was, hey, get one, get four, and see if you like it.
There you go.
And so that's the message that resonated with me, and that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Frankly, that's what I hope people take, right? It's just our story. It's not really even a how-to book, although there are some things, do's and don'ts in the second half. But yeah, it's, hey, reduce your expenses, right? Live below your means, sacrifice. It takes some time, right? It talks about our 15-year journey, right? So it's not an overnight success. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting one, and there's nothing wrong with getting four. Those are great goals. So I'm glad that came through. That means a lot. And you said we a couple of times, so let's make sure we include the significant other. She is on board with this and right in sync with
Yeah,
you.
we're both holding on for dear life, hoping for the best. It freaks us out a little bit. I mean, it's such a big risk for us to,
Okay.
it takes a long time to save money,
Yeah.
and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna put it in this thing, and Richest Man of Babylon, one of the first books I read
Yeah.
in financial literacy, says invest in things that you know and understand.
Right.
And so I realized that I was the greatest liability in this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just a lot that we're trying to learn, and you got to take a risk though. So we're in it together.
That's
we
awesome.
celebrated together after we
Nice.
closed the first one.
That's a big deal. You got to have those memories. I screwed that all up as I highlighted.
And we're doing it again. So
there
we're going to keep going.
All right. So you find real estate. You find the book a few months ago. How do you decide? Because again, you need to build confidence, right? That's the thing you're probably lacking at this point: confidence in yourself, confidence in a market. How did you do that? Right? Did you stumble across the course? Learn your market, all that stuff. How did you start building confidence?
I started building confidence with trying to find like the safest entry point to where I could kind of mitigate my I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And that for me was to start with turnkey.
Yep.
I didn't know how to get an agent. I didn't know all the things. And so a turnkey company sounded appealing to me because they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Mm-hmm. And as you should, you are paying kind of a top dollar price because they are doing a lot of that work for you.
Sure.
But I evaluated turnkey companies. I was looking for one with kind of a long-standing history, good track record, and it was important to me that the property management was connected to the turnkey provider, so that all the renovations they were doing, they were kind of still on the hook for them. Yeah. Once we closed. So anyhow, that was kind of my thinking, and I was just looking at their catalog of properties thinking like, okay, I'm just looking at numbers. I had to like Google a third of the terms on the pro forma because I didn't even know what they meant. Yeah. And so you just start learning that way. And that analysis paralysis, I didn't want to, I had to make a decision at some point. So I picked the one that I thought would be the best exit, which is like, okay, I'm going to buy like their nicest looking one. Like my wife and I thought it was a pretty home, and we thought surely somebody would want to live here if we had to sell it. Okay. And we just, decided we didn't like this thing. So that's kind of how we did it. It was, as you can imagine, you don't have a lot of confidence when you're buying it like that. But fortunately it was during the beginning of that process where we had made that decision that I had found your book and subsequently heard about your course. And I thought, like for the price, I mean, how can you beat it? And that's how I feel about it. I can't believe the skill of learning your market only costs like $200. It's crazy. Yeah.
I did that on purpose because I wanted it to be something enough where you feel it, but it's not going to break anybody. So I'm still keeping it at 200, even though we do live streams and all these other things. So that's cool. So you find the course, you get it, you jump in, and step one is start building an Excel spreadsheet, right? Start learning your market. Yeah. You're like, oh shoot, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Well, it was cool to have kind of the real life experience where I was looking at a real property I was invested in. I had emotional connection to and money connected to it. So it was extra motivating to go after that zip code, and I was an overachiever. I was looking twice a day. Nice. And updating it twice a day. So yeah, that was really helpful, and I was a little eager to understand what was happening before I was able to understand what's happening. Like you can't. I the first week I'm like, okay,
I don't get it.
Like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? But after you're right, like after about a month, it just
makes sense.
Things just kind of start to mold into something that you can see trends and you can understand.
Yeah, that. I'm so glad that is true. I hear it over and over again, right? People get in, they're really excited. They spend the week and they're like, I don't get it yet. Well, you're not supposed to get it yet. It's been 7 days. This is a 30, 60, 90-day process. I promise you, if you keep doing it, and again, it doesn't take a lot of time, right? You were an overachiever twice a day, but still it's 10 or 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, totally. I try to spend 30 minutes before work and 30 minutes in the evening.
Yeah.
And it's not just to like update the spreadsheet.
No, of
It's to
course.
learn all the things that I clearly don't understand and try to fill in those gaps.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. So it sounds like you had a property in mind before you got the course. And then you started doing the work and you started to see the picture after 30 days. Where did that property land as far as average, good, or great when you kind of started doing your homework? Did it come out on top? Did it come out in the middle? I mean, where was it?
Yeah, it came out right about the middle, right about
Okay.
an average deal. And one of the things I learned through the process, knowing myself, is I love negotiating. I
Okay.
love being able to talk to someone and figure out how we can create a better deal.
Okay.
And that's where probably my one criticism of the turnkey process
Yeah.
is that there's just not a lot of flexibility to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so anyhow, it started as an average deal, and then the coronavirus came,
Yeah.
and shelter in place, all this takes over the whole media stream, and so I'm freaking out. We're like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
like the worst possible timing ever. And I probably on a daily basis, I was like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? um, but we stayed with it, and there were a couple of points along the way due to those circumstances. It delayed our escrow a little bit. Things were happening in the lending world
Yep.
where the rates were being cut, and I asked the lender twice at two different times if we could get the rate down, and he agreed to it,
Oh,
which was
nice.
really cool. So made up a little bit of margin there.
Yeah.
And and then the turnkey company was super gracious. They understood it was my first deal, and they not only came down to the full appraisal price, because it appraised for a little bit less than their asking price.
Okay.
Not I've heard most companies don't do that.
Yeah.
So it was really cool of them to come down to that number, and they threw in stainless steel appliances, which was really cool. And the best thing was, because my greatest fear was, how is this thing going to rent if nobody's working?
Yeah.
And so we had a discussion. They had like a 90-day guarantee that after 90 days they'll pay the rent. I was like, oh man, that's a long time. And so, what's the longest
Yeah.
it's ever taken you to do it? They said 45 days. I'm like, let's do that. Like, can we do a 45-day guarantee? And they looked into it and did it. So it made me feel
Cool.
good about it.
Good. Yeah. And again, again, I love the negotiation aspect. That's one thing you're going to see in the upcoming market for the rest of 2020. I think you're going to have negotiating power even with turnkey providers,
Mm.
because a lot of buyers are just disappearing, or it's really the financing that's disappearing, right? It's just harder for investors who have a dozen properties to get that next loan. The first four is still easy. So that's pretty cool. So I didn't even ask, what market is this in? So just other people know.
Yeah, it's in the Memphis area.
Memphis, Tennessee,
Yeah,
right? Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee, and we're specifically in one of the outlying suburbs that happens to be just across the border in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about the house. Square footage, single story. Just brag a little bit because it's gorgeous.
Here, I'll show you a picture.
Yeah.
I got it right here. They sent a cool little frame to me.
Oh, nice. That is a
There it
gorgeous
is.
house.
Yeah, it's a
So
3-2,
yeah.
1,500 square feet, 2-car garage, and I would live in it.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
Yeah. And so what is rent like there? What rent are you targeting?
$1,495, so $1,500.
Okay. And the purchase
Yeah,
price ended up being?
170.
Oh, there you go. Okay. And you came in with a standard 30-year fixed loan, probably with I'm guessing a low 4, maybe high 3 on it?
Yeah, it was 30-year fixed, 20% down,
Yep.
and the rate was 4.375.
Yeah. That's what I would figure. Very, very cool. You're that's gonna be cheap money in here in 3 or 4 years when inflation kicks in. You'd be like, score.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So how do you feel now? So how do you feel about the market? How you spent how many days sort of researching it? Do you feel like you understand it better than you did 45 days ago or so?
Definitely, yeah, and like you said, it doesn't take too long to update it daily, just a few minutes
Yeah.
to see what's going on. But I feel like I actually, one of the questions I have for you is like,
Sure.
what, I've done this for probably 45 days, 60 days,
Okay.
really just doing kind of the basics of what you laid out in your course. What would be like the next two or three things to be looking for in terms of learning my market?
Yeah. So what you usually do is you start off with 3 bedroom, 2 bath, right? You got to get that base criteria just so other people are keeping up, so that initial list isn't overwhelming. But once you get it and you're sort of there now, you start to expand it. You can go up bedrooms or up square footage or go down. So you're getting a different kind of inventory. So you really have two choices. Do you expand the zip code but keep the type, right? 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,500 square feet, and i.e. another zip code? Because you'll see differences, right? Just across the water in another state, they'll be different and you get to measure. Or do you stay in this location and you go up and down the food chain, right? That's
Okay.
where you'll start to go because you'll see differences, right? I can't speak to the market you're in, but my market, right? If I did a 3 bedroom, 2 bath like I started, where I started to see a change was when I went down in bedrooms, like 2 bedroom, 1 baths. I started to see a whole different inventory, right? 3 bedroom, 2 bath is kind of like 1980s and above, right? Because you started
Mhm.
having that second bath, that master suite. But when you went down in square footage, you started to get the 1950s 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. Now that was just a eye-opening experience for me because different price points, different rents, different age. That really ABC became important, right? Because a 3 bedroom, 2 bath
Mhm.
that's 30 years old is usually an A or a B. You go down to the 2 1s at 909 square feet, you do have some C's that need a full remodel. So that's what you're going to be doing next.
Okay.
Is either you like the area and you expand the type, or you go,
Mhm.
okay, I'm always going to be a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,500 square foot ranch guy, and then you'll go to
Yeah.
another zip code. Um,
Okay.
that's the next step for you.
Okay. That makes perfect sense, and I think that's kind of naturally what I've started to do. How do you measure that? Because that look kind of, it seems like a micro, like you're really honing in on one zip code, but you're expanding a little bit.
Mhm.
What do you do with kind of like macro trends for your like greater area, like the greater Fresno area? Do you look at some of the big picture trends of what's happening there too?
For sure. I look at employment, right? The big, I actually consider it Central Valley because in Fresno is like the heart of the Central Valley, but I look at all of it because it's all tied together. Fresno, just so you know, is very agriculture and distribution based. So those are the things that I'm watching. I'm watching for big lease ups, companies coming in like Amazon just came in, Ultra Beauty just came in with huge warehouses. And obviously, food is important. I think we may have some food deflation short term, but long term, that will have some inflation. Um, I do watch for investments. They have a big downtown investment, so that was going really big last year. See who's coming in. There's hundreds of millions of dollars coming in. So yeah, I'm looking at the macro trends. I watch unemployment a little, probably every 90 days, because it doesn't move a lot, but it might move this time. Um, those are the things that I'm watching. But again, real estate's local, right? I now look at the entire market for single family homes, but I have the 20 years to do that. But in the beginning, it's all these other things are just interesting data points, but you can always make a choice in your little kind of area. The goal is to know it better than real estate agents. That's what I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. That's good. I like
because
that.
you don't need, because if you start to expand too much, you start getting these extra data points that you're not sure how it ties together, and it could just be a lark, and it just sends you spinning out of control.
Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Very cool. So is the plan for this to hold for 30 years? Do you have a plan?
Yeah, the plan is buy and hold for a long time.
There you go.
I I don't want to, like, have you heard of the FIRE movement,
I
the
have,
financial independence, retire early?
for
So
sure.
I'm not really on the retire early side of that. I I just want to spend my time differently.
There you
You
go.
know, there's things that I clearly would like to invest my time into. And
Yeah.
if I'm, handcuffed to a job for the rest of my
Yeah.
life, I can't do that. So I do want to hold these long term and have them kind of
Yeah.
replace my income, really.
That's awesome. So both of us were in a sales career when we started this. Do you travel, or do you have or do you, everybody in sales travels, but is yours by car or by airplane? I mean, how big is
Mine
your
is
dirt?
by Google Hangouts, Zoom,
Okay.
all the video call
But is that today or
mechanisms.
is that always?
It's always been like
Oh,
that.
okay. All right.
Yeah, so we're a fully remote team, and very occasionally we'll travel to customer sites.
Okay.
But we really kind of are in more the like small mid-sized
Okay.
business and occasionally enterprises, and so we
Yeah.
fly out to those occasionally.
That's what killed me was I remember being 30 years old when I started this going, I cannot keep doing 100,000 miles a year on airplanes. It was killing me. And
No,
then the
I've had
90
those
day
jobs.
stress. Yeah. Oh, not good. All right. So, do you already have, you already started to talk about the second one?
Yeah, we went under contract like a week ago on the second one.
Look at you. All right.
I
So
know.
do you, what are the stats on that one? How did the second one compare to the first one when you put it in the spreadsheet, you know?
It was better. I
Of
went for
course
the
it
great.
is.
Yeah, I picked the one at the top of the list.
That's what you're supposed to do.
I know, and like you said, it was a different type. It was a 3 1.5, an
Ah,
older house,
there you go.
and one of the big things I learned um, through the course was to try to go after below the median
There you go.
in terms of home value. And so this first one was the median value in my area is 141,
Okay.
and I bought at 170.
Oh, okay.
And so this one that I'm under contract on, we made an offer at 85.
Nice.
And so there
But
would be a
what was
little
it?
bit of
What was it listed for first? Let's tell the whole story. So what was it listed at?
90,
All right. So it's listed at 90. How long it had been on the market before you made your offer?
about 20 days.
Okay. All right. So you
Yeah,
came in at 85, or was that where you negotiated to?
I came in at 85 and they accepted at 85.5.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
kind of
So
like a good faith movement.
yeah, I've done that before, right?
Yeah,
85 is my top. All right. You want $500? Fine. Yeah.
yeah,
That way they feel like they won.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So you said 3, 1.5, right?
Hmm.
It sounds like it needed a little bit of spit and polish.
Yeah, the property manager said you could get this ready for like $1,000.
All right.
I'll probably put a little bit more into it.
Yeah.
Home
So you put in
inspection came.
2,500 or something?
I haven't put the money in yet, but the home inspection came in last night. So I would imagine probably 3,000
Okay.
is probably where
Well,
we'll
let's
be.
talk about the home inspection. Anything on there particularly surprising?
The worst thing is that the home has a crawl space
Yep.
and there is moisture. They didn't put a
A
moisture
barrier.
barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's created a little bit of mold in certain places. So
Sure.
they
Okay.
replaced the floors in one of the rooms to get rid of it. But the inspector said there's a little discoloration in some of the
All right.
floor joists that we
And
need to deal with.
usually in inspections, they give you a price for that. Did he give you a bid to address that?
No, not yet. He didn't. No, he didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't ask though.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what I would do. Again, this is your situation, but I would take that report, I would highlight that section, give that back to the seller and say, hey, fix this before I close or give me a credit. That's what I'd be doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
And
Yeah.
then worst case, they could say no. I mean, that's the worst case. But in this environment with buyers disappearing, I would take this opportunity this is a real thing, unexpected, right? You didn't check the crawl. It's not like there's a big thing in the industry called retrading where you just lock it up to trade. That's not what this is. You're like, hey, I wouldn't have asked for this, but right here, Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
Seller, I suggest you fix this or give me a credit to fix it myself. So that would be my first
Okay.
phone call.
Cool. Thanks.
And I would always do the big thing. I wouldn't nickel and dime them all the little things, but just take the big one and go, hey,
Okay. That's good.
worst case, except 50%, right?
Okay.
That's what I would do. But yeah, so that's cool. So and then what did you put in rent for 3 1.5? The first one was 1495, 1500. What's this one you think? 1200?
This one would be like 950 to 975, somewhere in there.
Oh, why the difference? Why the
It's in
big
a
difference?
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's actually pretty hard to get a home for under 90K
Sure,
in
of
the zip
course.
code.
Yeah.
Um, and it's in the oldest part where
Okay.
so it's kind of the worst part of the zip code. It's a really nice zip code,
Yep.
and the area is still pretty nice, but it's literally the cheapest homes,
That's okay.
and they're oldest.
I
So
buy there
yeah,
all the
that's
time. Okay.
yeah.
It just surprised me, right? I guess it shouldn't surprise me. I mean, I guess I have some stuff in my market. Actually, I just rented one for 1500 where if I had actually it's a 1.5 bath though. That does surprise me. Cuz I would get 995 for a 3-1,
Mm.
but that extra half bath usually gets me $50. But again, I don't know your market, so I'm just using
Yeah, me neither.
yeah. Yeah, so again, maybe you'll be surprised. I don't know. Have you ever looked at Craigslist or anything to see what other? I mean, you're trusting your property manager at this point, but have you ever had other boots on the ground? Double check.
I'm asking a couple property managers just to kind of
Okay.
get a couple different opinions, and just looking at like websites,
Okay.
Zillow, Trulia, those things. Rent-a-meter seems a little lower than what you actually get
Okay.
in my zip code, but I haven't looked at Craigslist. I should.
Yeah, just see. And again today it'll probably be all over the map because everybody is freaking out by the health event we're in. But yeah, I think just double checking that as you build the local knowledge. And again, in 6 months you'll have it, right? Like I could quote you a rent on anything I own today within $25, but you just need to build that history. That's cool.
Yeah.
So if you were, coming into this, what would you tell somebody new that's had an interest in real estate investing, but doesn't have the confidence? Would you recommend the course? What are they going to get? Tell other folks about how it's helped you move forward.
Yeah, totally. Those are kind of some combos I'm having with friends that, are looking to start building some wealth and, investing their money. So I talked to them about this, and I would 1,000% recommend the course. I don't know how you would buy a property without knowing your market. That just sounds terrifying. And,
Yeah.
and it's crazy what you can learn in 30 days. That's it. Like,
Yeah, there's again, I've never promised magic. There's nothing in the course that is hard. It just takes focus and consistent execution. And then,
yeah,
yeah, focus is important, right? Because you come into this and there are so many things you could do in real estate. Oh, Airbnb and Burr and LP, Jeep, general partner, limited partner, mobile homes, and you just, go anywhere, right? So
totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
awesome.
completely overwhelming. So that's a great place to start. I've done a lot of research and a lot of listening to podcasts and stuff, and this has by far been the most accessible and what seems to be realistic and down to earth
Cool.
type of instruction. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
I appreciate that. Any other bits of advice or closing comments? I want to thank you again for doing this on a Saturday.
yeah, of course. No, I really appreciate you having me on. The community and the group is so beneficial, and I'm really pumped, man. I'll let you know when I close on number 2.
I've absolutely posted in the Facebook group
Yeah.
just for students. So thank you very much, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
Uh-huh.